What's up, everybody? Nate here. Right now, there's undeniably a massive shift going on in our economy. Markets are crashing. The Federal Reserve is instituting its biggest policy changes of the last 40 years. Inflation is on high, and social unrest and distrust for the wealthy and government is only growing every single day. Now, there has been talks of an even bigger recession and crash around the corner, but actually, all of this is just setting the stage for something a whole lot bigger. And for the first time in a long time, it's actually not all bad news. All of those events that I mentioned earlier are now setting the stage for one of the largest wealth transfers in American history. And the craziest part is, all of that is starting right now. Meaning in 2022, we are going through one of the biggest wealth building opportunities that we have ever seen. So today, I want to go over this huge wealth transfer. I want to talk about the social and economic climates that are creating this transfer, what all of this is actually going to mean, and how it is not only going to affect the generations of today, but pretty much every generation of the future and that will ever be. But before I get into all of that, do me a quick favor and hit smash or destroy that thumbs up button below and ring that notification bell too. Both of those two things are completely free and they help to show me that you like this video and that you want to see even more just like it. Thank you so much for doing that, and now let's go over the three things that are creating this largest wealth transfer in human history. The first is wealth that is trickling down. So right now, money from the wealthiest generation in human history, the baby boomers, is starting to trickle down to millennials, Gen X, and Gen Z. A lot of this has to do with retiring, a lot of it has to do with the older generation passing away. But needless to say, all of this money and all of these assets from the baby boomers is starting to come down. And this is a record $71 trillion that has to go down to other generations. Now, this entire process has been going on for the last 15 years or so, but it's been really slow. The process is starting to really pick up in 2022 because the older generation is really starting to retire or is starting to pass away. And as they continue to do those things, well, the wealth of the younger generations is only going to grow. So that is the first thing. And we're talking assets like stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities, and of course, just straight cash. All of that needs to be passed down. But the second thing that is causing a massive wealth transfer in the United States and across the world is actually something that you wouldn't really expect and something that is completely unique to 2022. Markets right now are crashing all throughout the world. The stock market, all of your major indexes are essentially going way down, and there are a lot of different reasons for that, reasons that we've talked about in a lot of other videos, and if you're interested, I'll leave a link in the description below. But right now, markets are crashing. We saw them do this back in 2020, and in 2022, a similar opportunity is forming. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. Nate, doesn't a crash mean that money is being lost? Well, you are absolutely right. A crash means that all of these assets and markets are essentially going down. So all of this money, and more importantly, imaginary money, is disappearing. However, this means that there is a lot of money to be gained in the future. When a crash happens, assets go on sale, and that creates an opportunity for people who couldn't normally enter the market to buy a lot of these assets at a discount. Holding these assets means nothing in the short term, but holding them for the long term can create some huge wealth. And this has literally been proven. Like, baby boomers held onto their assets for a long period of time, particularly stocks and bonds and a lot of real estate. They held on to these assets for 20, 30, and 40 years, and now because of all of these crashes and assets going up, their wealth is 8 times larger than the millennial generation. And the simple fact is, they own assets. They've owned them for a very long period of time, and they continue to go up in value. All of the big swings and all of the losses they have seen over the past 30 and 40 years. But in particular, over the last 2 or 3 years, all of those assets have exploded even more. Everything from the stock market to the cryptocurrency market and even real estate hit brand new record highs over the last 2 years, and that has meant that the baby boomer generation has seen their wealth explode even more. And yes, all of these markets are falling today, but traditionally they have all bounced back with time. And like I said, they've also gone on to set new record highs. Now, that does not mean that every single investment is safe, but what it does mean is that generally investment investing is a really safe way to grow your wealth over time. But how exactly does this create a situation where wealth is being transferred? Well, we're in a situation right now where the baby boomer generation is starting to sell off their assets, whether it be because they're passing away or because they're retiring. They need that cash in order to live the rest of their life. They have a lot of other needs. But we also have a situation where millennials are now in the best financial situation of their life in terms of their income. Typically, your 20s, 30s, and 40s is going to be the years where you make the most money, and millennials are right in this situation right now. What's even more is most millennials actually quit their jobs over the last 2 years and are making a whole lot more than they were just a few years ago. That has meant that they can re-enter the market and do exactly what the baby boomers did. Buy these assets at a discount and then hold them for long-term wealth. And while that obviously doesn't mean that every single millennial is going to see this as an opportunity and put their money into markets to invest it, well, the fact of the matter is the majority of millennials actually have done this. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we have seen more people enter the market as a first-time investor than we pretty much ever have in American history. This is because many Americans saw this as an opportunity to start building their wealth, while a lot of these assets were at a discount. Most of that was because of the crash in 2020. It was so sudden that so many people suddenly entered the market, and now it's happening again in 2022. The market was down then, and now it's down again. So a lot of Gen X and millennials and even Gen Z is starting to pick up that slack from the baby boomers, and they're starting to invest for long-term wealth. And number 3, our economy is currently expanding. So the opportunities that we have in 2022 just simply did not exist 20, 30, and even 40 years ago. Because of things like the Great Resignation, millennials are making more. But not only that, millennials are realizing that there are a lot of other ways to get money. You can essentially make money doing anything. Like you can start a YouTube channel or a side hustle, or you can start investing passively. There are a lot of different ways to make money other than just a traditional 9 to 5. Not only that, but the tech industry exploding has meant that there is just so many other ways for millennials to build wealth other than just going to work. And in 2022, there is more money than there ever has been in American history. So there is a lot of money to get, around $20 trillion in fact. Not only have millennials and Gen Xers and Gen Z started their own businesses, but they actually started to invest in things that didn't exist 20 years ago. Cryptocurrency is now huge, and there are millions of Americans who are investing in this every single day. It's a brand new way for people to make money. My point is there's a lot of different ways for people to make money in 2022 that just simply didn't exist before. That is going to make a whole lot of people a whole lot wealthier in the future, and probably wealthier a lot faster. And with the Federal Reserve continuing to print money like there's no tomorrow, there's going to continue to be a whole lot of money for Americans to get if you know how to get it. What seemed really risky 20, 30, and 40 years ago is now the brand new normal, and that is creating a whole lot of wealth building opportunities that are going to advance generations way faster than they did for the baby boomers and even maybe Gen X. So those are the 3 major ways that wealth is starting to trickle down to the younger generations of society. Now, here is exactly what all of that means. Basically, this has been the standard for our entire civilization. The ones who have the money also have all of the power. As all of this money trickles down, we're going to continue to see Gen X and millennials and Gen Z make the changes they want on society, whether that be social or political. Not only that, but because millennials and Gen Z are so young right now, and our business cycle is currently changing because of a lot of policy changes from the United States government, well, then we're most likely going to continue to see that strategy of buying and holding for the long term play out for the millennial generation. That could essentially stabilize markets and make investing really boring again, but also really profitable. I mean, the stock market and other markets like the cryptocurrency market are crashing right now, but that doesn't mean that they always will. It also means that the markets could go even lower. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. The only thing that we do know is that traditionally these markets have always gone up, and the ones that have held on to these assets for the long term traditionally make a whole lot more money than people who sell in the short term. The buy and hold strategy, time and time again, has been proven to consistently build wealth over the long term. So it doesn't really matter what the market does today. It only matters what the market looks like 30 and 40 years from now. Baby boomers use this as a way to build their wealth, holding on to real estate, holding on to stocks, holding on to bonds and other assets for the long term. Now, they can't hold on to all of those assets forever, so they're starting to sell them off. The millennial generation and Gen X and Gen Z are in a great position to start filling in those gaps, and right now is a great time because the stock market is tanking. So you can essentially get all of those assets and now hold on to them. The baby boomers did it, and now the millennials are going to do it too. What it also means is that ideologies and populations are going to change all across the United States. Some places are going to see some huge growth. Other places in the United States are going to shrink. But it's all going to come down to what the millennials want and where they see value within our economy and society. And I want to be completely clear here. Obviously, not everyone in the United States is going to see this huge abundance of wealth hit their pocketbooks. There is going to be a lot of Americans who don't really get any of this trickle-down wealth. But no matter who you are, how many assets you have, or how much you actually make, there is still a lot to be learned from this great wealth transfer. The first is that investing consistently for the long term is one of the best ways to build wealth and to make sure that you don't stay in the position that you are right now. There is nothing you can do if none of that wealth is trickling down. I mean, you can't go back in time and make decisions for your grandparents. All you can do now is prepare yourself and prepare your wealth so that you have something to trickle down to your family later on down the road. And one of the best times to do that is when a crash happens. We saw it happen in 2020, and now we're seeing it happen in 2022. At some point, you'll have to take advantage of these opportunities, or else you're going to be in the same exact financial position 20, 30, and 40 years from now. The other thing that can be learned is continuing to learn, specifically through financial education. That is going to be the key to capitalizing on these opportunities, always staying in the know and knowing what to do with your money. Handling your money is becoming more and more important, and many millennials and Americans are doing it wrong. But if you know how to handle your money, then you can capitalize on these opportunities and actually create some a whole lot later in your life. And then finally, understanding that what you do with your money is a whole lot more important than just trying to make a whole bunch more money. Making more money is not going to be the solution if you don't know how to handle it in the first place. Baby boomers understood this. This is why they held on to those assets for a very long period of time. I mean, you don't think we went through market crashes in the 60s, 70s, and 80s? Of course we did. Obviously, those situations were different. No market crash is the same as the last. No recession is going to be exactly the same every single time. There's different factors. There's going to be different winners and different losers when it comes to Americans and businesses. But the one thing that holds true is that we're always going to continue to see booms and busts in our economy. So you have to know how to manage your money when things are great and when things are bad. That all starts with creating a financial plan that you stick to no matter what happens. And by no means do you have to make significant contributions right now. Obviously, every single American comes from a different level of income. But what you have to understand is you need to do what you can afford right now. These opportunities are not going to last. We will most likely see more in the future, but as this generational shift changes, we're going to see a lot of changes in our society. You need to know when to grab those opportunities, and if you don't know how to handle your money, if you don't start doing what you can afford now, then you're never going to get there. But by doing all of this today, you can hopefully grab some of that $71 trillion that is trickling down from the baby boomers. And hey, you might even even be able to create some of that wealth along the way. But now I want to hear from you on this issue. What do you think about this massive wealth transfer that is coming from the baby boomers going all the way down to millennials, Gen X, and Gen Z? Do you think we are actually in one of the greatest wealth building times in American history? And if so, how do you think this is actually going to help millennials, Gen X, and Gen Z shape the future of our society and economy? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below before you go. But that is it for today's business and financial news breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to stay up to date with all of the top business and financial news from around the country, our team puts together a free daily newsletter, and you can subscribe to it by clicking the link in this corner right here. And if you want to stay up to date with me and everything else happening in the business and financial world, I'm putting out updates 7 days a week over here on this channel, and I've actually got another one ready for you right here, so be sure to check that out before you go. That is it for me, everybody. Be kind out there, and I'll see you all in the next one.